you gain credits if you produce in Canada. You need a credit to sell into Canada.
Carney is more arrogant than Justin Trudeau. Welcome back to Moose on Loose. My name's David. Today, during a press conference in Japan, Mark Carney gives a reporter the cold shoulder when asked a question twice because, well, he didn't answer it the first time. We also have the Liberal government giving free daycare to refugees, among some other nonsense here. Let's jump into this. Got this one here from CBC Watcher. CBC is now available on Amazon. CBC Radio Canada certainly hasn't finished surprising us, the public broadcaster, proudly announcing yesterday that RDI and CBC News in its 24 Hours news channel are now available on Prime Video. They're trying their best to get this propaganda out there. Is anyone going to watch this here? They know that people aren't watching cable. They don't have cable, so they're trying their best here, but the people watching on Prime Video are not going to click on CBC and watch that. Moving ahead, we've got Canada has soft launched a program to help 33,000 skilled temporary foreign workers in high demand sector transition to permanent residence over the next 2 years. Why? Unless they're doctors or engineers or ethical politicians. Those are in high demand right now. We also got it here, so this is coming from the Toronto Star. 33,000 foreign workers. This is what the Carney government is prioritizing in our country. 0% of them will vote for the CPC, and they know this. Yeah, they're just bringing in voters. This is how the Liberals always do their thing. Moving ahead, we've got Supreme Court of Canada rules 8-1 that Quebec excluding refugees from taxpayer-funded daycare constitutes illegal discrimination. So what constitutes legal discrimination? Job postings that list all types of people except white men, for example? Why isn't this the front of the Supreme Court of Canada? Yeah, I mean, our country is completely race car. Got this one here from Melissa. It says, now the Supreme Court of Canada has just ruled that asylum seekers are entitled to subsidized daycare. This madness must end. And of course, excluding them is discriminatory to women. What about asylum single fathers? Of course, fathers don't matter in the eyes of the law in Canada. This is unbelievable. We're going to pay for people who are not Canadian for their kids' daycare. Like, get out of here. Supreme Court of Canada has ruled excluding asylum seekers from subsidized daycare. It even says it right here. This is a real story. You can't believe this stuff. What's next? We're going to be funding the lunches of terror lords in the Middle East, in Iran. Oh, we feel so bad for you, IRGC families. Let's fund your kids' lunches. Maybe we can buy a couple bombs for you to send over to the Americans while we're at it. Are asylum seekers allowed to be working? Why do they need daycare? Every day is worse than the last. I don't know if I should laugh or cry at this point. I mean, I just have to laugh at this stuff because it's just so outrageously stupid. The Liberal Party of Canada does not love this country. They do not care about us whatsoever. We've got Harrison Faulkner here posting a clip of this. Mark Miller asked about this. Canadian Identity Minister Mark Miller praises the Supreme Court for ruling that it's unconstitutional to block refugees and asylum seekers from the free government-subsidized daycare programs. You can't make this stuff up. It's not like some little program off to the side that some deputy minister did on their own. This is Mark Miller standing here and backing this.
Just wondering if the federal government can comment on the Supreme Court's decision today regarding daycares in Quebec and asylum seekers.
Yep, certainly. I think this was the right decision. Support the Supreme Court and respect its decision-making process. I think regardless of the legal arguments that the government of Canada may or may have not supported made by Quebec, the initial decision morally was the wrong one. I think it targeted kids, a group of kids that need to be supported. So it was the decision itself was unfair and cruel.
What's unfair and cruel is the amount you guys tax us and then give our money to every other country on earth except for Canadian citizens, sending it off to Uganda and Vietnam, Madagascar, South Africa, the Congo, Ethiopia, South Sudan, you name it. Our money goes to all these stupid programs which all look like money laundering schemes. There's no accountability. There's no return for Canadians. And what do we have now? Canadians using credit cards to buy food because life is too expensive, because Mark Carney is spending more money than any other prime minister in history, jacking up inflation, essentially stealing money right out of taxpayers' pockets. These guys are doubling the deficit, which is devaluing our money supply drastically. The only way to hedge against this is put all your money in something, in like an asset, gold, something that isn't the Canadian dollar. Inflation is the silent thief, and all these guys here are the face of it.
The best way to integrate into society is on the benches, on school benches. So if you fail to do that, you're missing a key part of what we're all aiming for successful integration, and targeting asylum seekers and refugees just wasn't right, particularly when you're asking them to work here and they're actually paying taxes. So That's the answer.
Yeah, we all know that asylum seekers, most of them here are just people from India that are pretend claiming that they can't go home, so they have to go into the asylum program. In reality, they get a bunch of freebies that taxpayers pay for that's bankrupting us. Free daycare for asylum seekers is wonderful. Supreme Court just ruled Quebec can't exclude them from $8.70 a day taxpayer-funded spots because equality? Meanwhile, Canadian families wait lists, borders stay wide open, and we're bankrupting ourselves. Put citizens first for once. What else is done with this insanity? They don't care about us. This sums it up right there. Taxpayers can't afford these globalist ideologies. It's abusive. The government is responsible for their constituents, not the world's population. It's inhumane to offer people who show up better services than tax-paying citizens and overcrowd the system, creating hardships. Moving ahead, we've got Mark Carney getting asked some questions in Japan. These are really hard to hear, so I'm going to just tell you what the question is here.
That CUSMA is critical for its footprint in Canada?
Well, it's
The question was about Japanese automakers. They're worried about CUSMA being renegotiated because it's critical for their plan to invest into Canada. Just listen to this. This is the first time Mark Carney really talks about his carbon credit system that I've been talking about for a year, over a year and a half. I've been saying that he's going to put carbon credits on everything because Brookfield is already the world leader in this. And he's invested in Stripe, which has the Frontier program, which is the backbone of this. For the tech industry down in America, they're going to roll this out everywhere.
a number of things. One is substantial capital for repositioning of firms. Secondly, changes to the emission standards, achieving the same goals, but with greater flexibility. That happens. It's helpful for many firms. It's very helpful for Japanese automakers because of their large proportion of hybrid vehicles and very highly fuel efficient internal combustion engine vehicles. So that was another change. The third thing which we're consulting on is a mechanism in order to have credits. You gain credits if you produce in Canada. You need a credit to sell into Canada. And this goes back to the earlier question about the structure of the CUSMA negotiations, the structure of the auto sector. And if I raise it up a level, the President of the United States has made the point several times about wanting as much production as possible in the United States for cars that are consumed in the United States, if I can put it that way. If you can consume a car, I guess you consume it over time. We can adopt that principle as well. We would do it through a market mechanism. A little over 70% of auto production in Canada is by the Japanese automakers. So they would be a beneficiary of that. It's not, it doesn't say Japanese auto, but it says if you produce in Canada and you provide the jobs and support our communities.
So let's go back there to what he said about credits.
You gain credits if you produce in Canada. You need a credit to sell into Canada. And
now, where do those credits come from? They come from Brookfield. The program he's talking about is the CBAM program, being CBAM compliant. That's when you have to buy a credit, a company outside of Canada, to be able to sell your stuff in Canada. If your stuff isn't eco and green, then you have to buy a credit, which comes from a company that produces credits. And that's where we have these high integrity removals and low integrity removals, DAC, direct air capture, bio oil injection, advanced rock weathering, synthetic biology or algae. Those are high integrity removals that a company like Brookfield would produce. The biggest one is this one, direct air capture, with machines that suck CO2 out of the air and then they pump it underground. They drill a hole down a couple kilometers through a shale layer and they pump it underneath there and it fills in all the gaps and they plug it and then that's it, stays down there. Now the problem with this is it has a lot of other impacts. It can destabilize the ground, it can poison the ground. This is not exactly the safest thing to do, this carbon capture and storage. Of course, they're not going to talk about that. And then these low integrity removals like planting more trees and reducing methane, all this stuff, this isn't going to produce the credits that Carney's talking about. It has to come from these high integrity ones, things where only big facilities can produce them because, well, Brookfield can corner that market, which they already have. So once you set up this system, then you have to buy the credits from Brookfield. Well, then Carney's in business here. Bruce Flatt and all the other cronies at Brookfield get rich. Carney can pump up the value of his Brookfield Global Transition Fund as well as his shares in Stripe, which, as I mentioned, founding member of the Frontier program, backed by all these big companies here. They put $1 billion in this to basically secure contracts so companies can get going with this. Otherwise, no one would go for it because there's no benefit to the carbon removal. There's no product created. Now, I think they are trying to create some products by sucking the carbon out and turning it into something. But right now, it offers nothing aside from a crap ton of money to do it. It's not affecting the atmosphere, despite the lies that they tell everyone. And Frontier program is focusing mostly on like the tech industry down in America. But as this gets expanded and they created the basic system, Brookfield is positioned to be the world leader on this. This is how he's going to become a billionaire, and he's going to bankrupt Canadians in the process.
Do you think that the Prime Minister had a good week or a bad week, or was it somewhere in between?
Oh, I think that he and his team had such great plans for a good week, that they had grand ideas about all the announcements that they were going to make. And then, as it said, events, dear boy, events. He just got railroaded by everything that happened in Iran. I had to think, it's a bit inside baseball, but when you're thinking about which staff you put on the plane with the Prime Minister to go on a big trip like this, because they've been gone for like over a week. It's a long time to go. So you take a bunch of your staff with you. You probably didn't think to take your caucus manager. And in this set of circumstances, that's the one person that they really needed on the Iran message. The Prime Minister put out what I thought, honestly, was a really good balanced message the first time. And that was probably his actual position. And then
I agree with her. That probably was his real position. And that was, when I saw that, I was like, oh, he's on the right side of this, which was we're supporting America in going into Iran. And then his caucus manager's like, whoa, the Liberals hate that. You need to say what they like. It's clear that Carney doesn't really support the ideas that his voters vote for, but he knows how to make money from these people with his net zero agenda. Now, it'd be fine if he could just force this on all of the Liberals and not the Conservatives and bankrupt all of them, then by all means have at it. Unfortunately, this affects all of us.
At some point at 6 or 7 in the morning, when everybody woke up in Ottawa and they saw the message, people started to freak out in Liberal caucus. And you have to remember, there's people in Liberal caucus who came up with like the war in Iraq and Occupy Wall Street as a movement and have like a very set point of view on U.S. military intervention and don't want to see the Canadian government involved at all. And so I think that in that set of circumstances, it would have been really helpful for them to check in with their caucus manager first before putting out that statement to see if they would need to change it 3 more times afterwards.
Sabrina, how much of that will he have to clean up once he gets back to Ottawa? Even though, as we had heard, the Foreign Affairs Minister, Anita Anand, was seemingly briefing members of caucus today.
Yeah, I think there was that caucus call today. I do think that it's really challenging when you have so much going on and every day is a day where we don't know what Donald Trump is going to do. Case in point, Saturday. I don't know that we would have necessarily pinpointed the Iran war to this past weekend. But I think for the Prime Minister, it's about being able to not just communicate that message to caucus, which I do think is critically important, but what was the message out of the trip this week to Canadians? And I think that is the more critically important message, right? A lot of it was overshadowed by small things. And I think the small things are the kinds of things that hurt a Prime Minister or hurt a government. The fact that they didn't take a press conference for several days, I think those are the kinds of things that naggle at you and become the kinds of things that blow up and like bite away at your success. So I think that those pieces of management, as Mel say, are the more important pieces that they need to get under control. Overall,
Carney doesn't have it under control at all. If we look at him handling his Japanese press conference, so towards the beginning of the press conference here, he gets asked about whether they're going to be helping with Iran, sending in anti-air, any sort of other military equipment. It's really hard to hear.
I was saying, but would Canadians be placed in harm's way in any conflict?
Would Canadians be placed in harm's way?
Well, the first thing, thanks for the question, Steve, Mr. Chase. The first thing is that we have not received any request for such assistance. First point. Second point, as you know, in this conflict, we were not consulted before it began. We're not in.
So he just goes off the same talking points that Anita Anand and everyone else is saying. Canada's top general, same wording. Then he goes on to this big ramble talking about the consequences, and that's what we're going to deal with.
Where we are engaged is dealing with the consequences of the conflict, consequences that continue to spread in the region and to some extent beyond into the Indo-Pacific region, obviously with the naval incident.
So he doesn't even address bringing soldiers in whatsoever. And then at the end of the press conference, he gets asked again after the final question. So Carney already checked out, didn't want to answer another question.
And this is an opportunity for Canadian workers and working with Japanese companies, other companies in Asia and Europe.
France and the UK sent preemptive troops or assets to the Middle East. Are you considering doing the same thing, sir?
I think I answered that question earlier. Thank you.
Thank you.
His arrogance is unmatched. He is more arrogant than Justin Trudeau. I've already answered that question. I'm out of here. He did not answer that question. He was asked the question. He didn't answer it. Moving ahead, Canada's top general weighing in on military options to support Gulf states in Iran conflict. This clown show doesn't stop. This take here by this guy, Canada's top general, is in over her head. Saudi Arabia and the UAE have far larger and more advanced air forces and navies than anything Canada could offer. Yeah, what is this? We don't know what's going on here anymore. We do have Canada's top general here speaking for herself.
We are not talking about participating to epic fury per se. This is not a mission that we are considering. However, our Gulf partners may require defense and support. So within that context, these would be the type of military options that we could consider.
Yeah, okay.
I want to be clear that we have no intention to participate in Operation Epic Fury. We were not consulted on this military operation and have not participated. I understand that General Carney is in touch with a number of allies at the Chief of Defense staff level, and will continue to be coordinated in order to ensure that de-escalation and the protection of civilian life and civilian infrastructure is top of mind.
You guys are not doing anything. Let's get real. They're not doing squat. You were not consulted because no one of consequence to this geopolitical situation cares about what our unprincipled leadership thinks. Canada's become a laughingstock. The last decade taught Iran a simple lesson: escalate and Washington will negotiate. Now they're learning a different one: escalate and lose ships, missiles, and launchers. Ronald Reagan called it peace through strength. It really is quite something. After finishing filming that clip there, what do I see pop up on the news? It's all over the news now. Suddenly out of nowhere, newly released Epstein files include explosive allegations against Trump. So in the files there's a lady making wild accusations against Trump. And going through the files myself, there's actually a lot of documents in there with people making crazy accusations against a whole bunch of different people. A lot of them are just people sending emails and stuff. None of them are verified. None of them are vetted. I don't know if the claims against Trump here are true. It's talking about forcing a young lady to do this, that, and the other. But regardless of that, with no evidence, the media is just pushing this out. And what do I see? You can see on the right side here, Global News doing the same thing, the exact same story.
The latest Epstein
Look at this. Missing Epstein files contain uncorroborated Trump claim released after complaints. This is wild. I mean, if you want to be a news organization, then put out news. Dig into it. Find out if it's true or not. If it's true, run the story. If it's not, then throw it in the garbage. Instead, they just run the story without proving anything. This is wild.
Documents lay out damning details of an alleged encounter between one of Epstein's survivors and Donald Trump in the 1980s.
This is so crazy. Like, whether you like the guy or not, it doesn't matter. The fact that the news is not doing their job to investigate the news, they're just putting out anything. Of course, they're just doing this to get clicks. The mainstream media in Canada has no credibility. And as I said here, we look in the comments, proof, any allegations, laughy face. So unverified, he's going to start WW3 over it. So some of the comments you see, like, disgusting, the US is truly a failed state. Like, people just take this as fact, even though it's not verified. It's just somebody wrote an email or something in one of these files that is an accusation. Well, go research it and then bring it back. This is serious hack journalism. People are saying that he went and attacked Iran just to hide this stuff. Alleged and unverified. Sounds like another Trump bashing video. The lefties hate Trump so much, but can do nothing but bash him. Another allegation after 30 years. Now, come on. Why come out now? Why not when Stormy? Talking about Stormy Daniels. Regardless of this story, this is not journalism. Meanwhile, the U.S. Navy here is escorting ships through the Strait of Hormuz. We've got this one breaking. Kuwait has begun cutting production at its oil fields after running out of room to store its bottled up crude oil. And we've got this one here. This is showing the oil fields. The reason why the Strait of Hormuz here, there needs to be an escort because, well, these are all the oil fields, these yellow dots. And without an escort, they're basically sitting ducks going through there. But I mean, there's a couple counters showing that there's barely any missiles flying out of Iran anymore. Within a couple minutes of every missile coming off, the Americans just nail them. So basically, if they launch a missile, they expose where they came from. Because they have air superiority, they get bombed almost immediately. Got this one here. Local sources confirm that Pakistan army is moving heavy artillery and equipment along the border with Iran. Yeah, so some heavy artillery and some people playing cricket. And we got Donald Trump here.
Before we begin, I think I will say a few words about what's going on with respect to our operation in the country of Iran. The United States military, together with the wonderful Israeli partners, continues to totally demolish the enemy far ahead of schedule and at levels that people have never seen before, actually. We're destroying more of Iran's missiles and drone capability every single hour, knocking them out like nobody thought was possible. As soon as they set off a missile, within 4 minutes, the launcher gets hit. They don't know what's happening. But we have the greatest military anywhere in the world. Their Navy is gone. 24 ships in 3 days. That's a lot of ships. Their anti-aircraft weapons are gone. So they have no air force. They have no air defense. All of their airplanes are gone. Their communications are gone. Missiles are gone. Launches are gone. About 60% and 64% respectively. Other than that, they're doing quite well. I said, what's left? But they're tough and they want to fight. And they're calling, they're saying, how do we make a deal? I said, you're being a little bit late and we want to fight now more than they do. We've had 47 years, depending on the way you count it, but 47 years of horror with this group. And, when you see somebody walking down the street without their legs, without the arms, whose face is so badly affected and hurt, it mostly came from 95% Soleimani and Iran. And we, other presidents, lived with it. I didn't live with it. And so our people are doing a great job. Again, the greatest military anyone's seen.